Hey guys, welcome back to another 3D printing video, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at another resin printer. So this one's made by a company called Longer, and the model of it is Orange 30. So this is their newer model that has the 2K resolution screen, which should give us excellent quality. So in this video we're going to unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Alright, so let's get started. All right, so this is how the Orange 30 comes in this pretty tall box. And the box actually is pretty discreet. It doesn't say anywhere that this is a 3D printer, except for down here in really small letters. It says Longer 3D and 3D printing technology. So that could be a pretty good plus for some of you guys I know. All right, so let's go ahead and open it up. Now with my experience, normally these resin printers, the up is this way, and so the heavy part is down. And so opening it from the bottom actually makes more sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that on this one. All right, let's flip it back around. And now we just need to go up. Well, that went pretty well. And you can see, guys, how they use the hard corners here to protect the printer. All right, so it looks like that was a great idea to open it from the bottom, because now we have everything right side up, and here we have some documentation right on the top. So we have a thank you card from Longer. We also get this little envelope with an extra film. Definitely like how they included that. And also we get a manual, which Longer does a very good job with their manuals. It's quite understandable, shows you all the features and how to use it. The good thing about resin printers is they're actually not that hard to use or even set up. Most of the skill that's involved in resin printing is actually slicing models and making supports, I would say. So let's go ahead and unpack this thing. So we got like a cardboard protector on the top, strainers here to filter out particles when we drain the resin back into the container. All right, so we got a cap here, and actually we have quite a few things here on the top. Let's see if I can. So it looks like this piece separates. Let's go ahead and try to do that. So in this portion of the styrofoam, we have a bunch of stuff in here that we're gonna go ahead and pull out one by one. So it looks like we have a power adapter, and it's a 12 volt 6 amp, the US power cord. We have the build plate, which is aluminum, and there's actually something quite unique about it. If you can see, it's tapered. Wow, that seems like such a great idea, because you always have resin here on the top that's just sitting there. So this should help it drain. And if you guys can see here on the front, there's like a little rounded out edge so it can actually drain easy. Wow, that's pretty cool. I like how they designed this build platform. Very nice. So we do get some resin, 250 grams of it, and it is in light brown. So that's really nice that they include the resin, because a lot of printers don't. So here we have a baggie with some Allen wrenches, gloves, and looks like some kind of paper towels, some playing cards, and a USB stick drive. So here it looks like we have some bracketry, and that's probably for the panels. And we also get a spatula, and it's actually sharpened. Very nice. All right, so the last part are these acrylic panels. So what we're gonna need to do is we need to build like a box out of them. So there's 4 sides, and then they have a top here. And it looks like these angle brackets go with this and hold it together. So, all right, so let's unpack the machine. And this thing is packed very well. I love how they encase the whole thing in foam. And it's also wrapped in this plastic bag. All right, and this is what it looks like. It's actually quite a nice size. It's definitely got a very industrial feel to it. It's all metal, so you guys can see a little closer. But yeah, here we have the tub, and you can't undo it with these knobs. The touchscreen here in the front. On the bottom, we have a large fan, some nice rubber feet. And here we have some more information about the printer. And the printing size is 120 by 68 by 170. So that's a really nice, good size. And keep in mind that is on a 2K screen, so you know, we have a 2K resolution on this surface area here, which is, you know, going to give us really good results here. So here in the back, we can see we have our USB, and then we have the power button, which is a really small. I kind of like the way this is. Never seen one that small. And this is where we're going to plug in our power cord. So yeah, guys, this thing is quite meaty and got a good weight to it. So our Z-axis is running on a linear rail, and we can see our rod there. And we have an end stop switch on the top that's mechanical. And on the very top, we have a QR code. All right, so that's everything in the package. So for the next part, let's go ahead and build our enclosure. All right, so building the enclosure is not hard. The first thing we need to do is we need to take off all the protective layers off of the acrylic. All right, so one panel is done and we got 4 more to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll put it together. All right, guys, so all the panels are nice and clear. So in this baggie where the gloves are and the USB drive, there are 3 rubber bands and they're clear. And we're actually gonna need these to put this together. So we're gonna need 3 rubber bands and then these 4 corner brackets. And so the way this goes together is not, you know, super hard, but it might be a little tedious for some. So if you look at the panel here, you can see there's 2 slots on the top. The 2 slots are actually for the top panel here. So I think the best way to build this would be upside down. So basically we're going to slot our top into the sides. So this is basically upside down. And the tedious part is they want to come out, obviously. So it's kind of hard to hold it all together. Actually, guys, laying it down like this on its side might be better. And this is the top here, having a little better success. All right, so I got a box. As you can see, guys, it's definitely tedious to get this box even into a box. So I just realized that life would be much easier if I just used some tape. So I'm just gonna tape some of these corners up here. And then obviously we can pull off the tape quite easily later. All right, so now that we got tape on all 4 corners, it's actually holding together quite good. So we're gonna grab one of these rubber bands and we're gonna try to stretch it over it. So one's gonna go on top, and then one somewhere in the center, and then one on the very bottom. All right, so we got one on the top. Let's flip it around. So let's do the middle. All right, so we got one in the middle. So technically we could go ahead and take this tape off. And so the last rubber band we're gonna put at the very bottom here. All right, so now that we've built our lid, we can go ahead and power on the printer. So once we plug in our power brick, we can see that there's a little light that glows, and hit the power button. So there we have a logo and our startup screen. All right, so it looks like it powered up and everything looks good. So the next thing we need to do is remove the tub. And there's these 2 nice knobbed bolts, and the whole tub just comes right off. And we can take a closer look at it. We can see that I think it's made out of metal because it's quite heavy, or at least parts of it. This seems aluminum, and then there's 2 more layers over here. Those seem maybe metal, and so if you can see all these bolts around it, what those are is if you take it off, it'll come apart, and you can change the film here. So the film does wear out after a while, and when that does happen, you can replace it. And that's actually what was in this envelope that we saw earlier, was the extra film. So before we can even use the printer, we have to adjust this plate here. So you will need a piece of paper. I'm just using this printer paper here. So let's go ahead and look at our UI here. So here we have a file. This is where we're gonna read our files once we put our USB thumb drive in. So let's go ahead and go to settings. So here we can see move, about, LED, and back. So let's go to move. And here we can see we have the different functions. We can either go up, down, the amount, which is 10 millimeters at a time. And if we click this, it'll change to 50 and 1. And then we have stop and back. But the one here in the middle on the bottom, this is our leveling. And that's what we need to do next. So if we click that, it's going to ask us to make sure that there is no model. So now it's moving. So basically what this does is it goes down to the very bottom, and then we can adjust our build plate. Now because we need to put our build plate still on, we need to go ahead and just raise it. So it's going to go up real quick. So now it should be high enough where we can install our build plate, and it goes in there just like that, slides right in, and then this knob up here will tighten it to the frame. So now if we click this leveling, or going down to 0, it's going to set itself down all the way. And what I probably should have done is loosened it first, because obviously it kind of clamped down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to loosen these 4 bolts with the provided Allen wrench. So now that it's loose, you can guys see that it moves around. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of press it down lightly and then tighten all 4 of these bolts back up. I forgot about these playing cards, but you could use the playing card here to do the bed leveling. It is quite thin also, actually. So maybe that's what we should do. Put the playing card in there. Because the thing about the playing card, it actually fits right on the screen. The paper kind of goes over the little tape here. So maybe the playing card will actually be more accurate. But in any case, you get the point. You try to level this as flat as possible with the screen. All right, so once you get that nice and tightened and you feel like it's flat, we can go ahead and raise it and pull our card out of there. All right, so I'm going to raise it some more so we can put our tub back on. But before we do that, let's go ahead and try the LED, which is the ultraviolet lights, see if they are working. It's going to ask us to turn them on. Yes. And there we go. So you don't want to, look at this too much, but we can see here that they are working, and this is how our resin cures. So this is just a test here, and it actually shows us the temperature also, which is kind of cool. So here we also have an option to, I guess, completely open or LCD closed. No, seems to be working just fine. Turn it off. So here we have an about. So that just tells us about the printer and the build size and the firmware version. And that's pretty much it, guys. So it's a really simple process as far as the UI goes. All right, so now we can go ahead and put our tub back on. So make sure it's nice and tight. And we can go ahead and lower this thing down one more time just to make sure everything's okay. And everything does look fine. So let's grab our thumb drive, plug it in the back. All right, so let's see what's on the SD card. So it looks like we have quite a few things to print here, guys, and that's definitely cool. So yeah, so we got like 6 items we could print. So the first one says bracket. That's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll start with that and then print a few more other things, but I definitely want to slice my own print and see how that turns out also. All right, so I guess we're ready to print, guys, and the resin we're going to be using is this included longer light brown. So I'm going to shake it up just a little bit, not too hard. If you shake it too much, you're gonna put a lot of air bubbles in it. But just to make sure all the contents are nicely fused together. But you do guys wanna remember that you wanna keep this kind of stuff in a very ventilated area, and you definitely wanna wear your gloves if you're gonna come in contact with resin. So pouring the resin in should not give us any contact, but once we get to the point where we have to take off the models, things like that, we definitely wanna put our gloves on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour it in there. And we want probably about 1/4 of a tub or so, maybe a little more, like 1/3 of a cup. And that should be good right there. So now we're gonna go back here to our file. Let's go ahead and try this bracket, see what that is. All right, so that looks like part of maybe some kind of mechanism or something. So I guess let's go ahead and try to print this. We can see here it says how long it's gonna take, which is 1 hour and 33 minutes. So I guess let's just go with it and see what kind of bracket this is. So it's gonna ask us, are you sure we wanna do this? And to make sure there's nothing in the tub or in the tank. And there it goes. So it initiated. It's coming down. And there it goes. All right, so it looks like the print has started. So on the display here, we can see on the top, that's the progress bar. We're at 0%. This is the time that has passed, so we got 1 minute. This is how much time it's gonna take to finish. And these are how many layers there are. So there's 404 layers total, and it's working on the first layer. And that's the temperature, I guess, of the machine, I'm guessing those ultraviolet lights. And then we have a status here, which says printing. So we do have a picture of what we're printing, and then we have a pause and a cancel button. So if we wanna pause it, we can pause it. And then if we want to cancel the whole print, we can do that. So very nice little display that gives you all the information you really need. All right, so it looks like our first layer is done. Now we're going to our second layer. You see that changed to number 2. All right, so we're just gonna let this thing do its thing, and we'll see what happens at the end of the print. But we also not need to forget this cover here. And basically what that's gonna do is it's gonna protect the resin from UV lights that will cure it. All right, guys, so our print is done and the screen reset itself to the main menu. Now I did put on some gloves because you're definitely gonna need these. Let's go ahead and take this cover off. And so the reason you need gloves is because, resin is obviously dangerous to touch, and you definitely don't want to get any of that on your skin. Now, another reason why you're going to need gloves is because you're going to need to wash this model up. And so what you need is some kind of little bin. I got this little plastic bin and some alcohol. So let's go ahead and take our model off. And hopefully you guys can see this before I flip it around too much. But you can see how this wedge-shaped plate here keeps the resin from building up on top of it. It seems to work great. So here we can see our model. It's looking pretty nice. And so I'm just gonna simply grab some alcohol and rinse it off. Let's see how easy it is to release it from the plate here. I got the spatula. All right, so I'm gonna have to set it down so I can put some good even pressure on it. There we go. That wasn't too bad actually. Was a little stubborn there in the beginning, but gave way quite easy. So also you are gonna need some kind of paper towels or napkins or whatever you wanna use. So I'm just gonna wipe this off. Now if you're done with the printer, then you can clean it all off nicely. But since I'm not done yet, I'm just gonna wipe it off a little bit and set it right back in there. And that way we can print some more models. So we're gonna rinse this model that we printed here really good and then the alcohol. Make sure we get all that resin off. Now you wanna be quite careful handling it because it's still a little bit soft. It has to cure really good in the sun. But here guys, we can kind of tell what it looks like. And it turned out very nice. So I'm gonna rinse this a little more and then I'm gonna put it out in the sun and let it dry and we'll take a closer look at it once it's completely cured. So the printer looks like it's operating well. There's no issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and print a few more models and then we'll take a closer look at them. So let's go ahead and check out what is on the thumb drive. And we can see here I got it plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. And here we can see that we have some instruction videos. So if you're confused about certain things, maybe these will help you out. And then we have files to print. So some of these are included, some of them I threw in there already. Then we have a manual in PDF form. Then we have a software, which we'll come back to, and STL files. So these are some of the files included. So we can kind of see here the models and what they look like. And as you can see, this one's hollow because you see there's holes here on the bottom and even on the side to drain resin once it's done and sitting upright like this. All right, so let's go back to the software. So here you guys can see you have a couple options. You can either use Windows or Mac. So I'm using Mac. But let's see what's in this folder here. So once you unzip these folders, you're gonna get the program and also configuration for Chitubox if you want to use that. So you can see there's Orange 30 configurator. Now I'm gonna go through both of these real quick and how to use it because the Chitubox you can use, but you do have to go through a little process. But as far as longer 3D goes, hopefully you guys can see that pretty well. I can't make the box bigger. It's either full screen or this size. But this is pretty simple to use. You just drag in a model. Let's just see this guy here. And if you saw there, I just dropped it in, but it doesn't respond to just dropping it in. So what you got to use is this little plus here. Let's just use another model here. So when we import it, all of a sudden you see that we have all the options that we need. So here we added. So here we can clone, reset, maximize. We can do the rotation, everything. So you can see that this model actually, for some reason my computer is kind of laggy, but in any case, maybe because the model is complicated. Oh wait, this is a high detailed model. I forgot, it's probably that's what's going on. Normally this moves around a lot easier, but we can see if I zoom in, this model is like ridiculous quality. You can do all your scale, rotation, size, all that stuff here. And then the next button here, I guess this is some kind of fix. So if there's any issues or holes, it can fix it. And then our next option is to make supports. So if you wanted to make supports, you would generate them here. For the last button here, we can see that this is where we're going to slice it. So here's we can choose our thickness, which is 50 UM, which is 0.05. And this is where we're going to slice the model. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and slicing it, or I guess it's sliced already. And we can kind of scroll through the layers. So it's quite simple to use. If you wanted to use the longer original software, you can. It's a more simple kind of process. And so then we're going to click on this play button looking thing, which is going to basically save our job or this file or make a file for the printer. And here you can kind of configure all the settings that you need, kind of like the cure time, burn-in time, and all the other stuff, lift speed. So once you're done with slicing it and doing what you want to do to it, you save the job. And this is the file that we get. So then we're going to drag this into our longer 3D file where all the other files in, just like that. And then we'll be able to print this file. So this is how you use the longer software. Now I did forget to mention, when you first install it, you might have to go in here and choose your Orange 30 here. So, all right, so I'm going to delete this for now. So let's say you're a person that likes to use Chitubox, which is an amazing program for resin printers. So I'm just going to throw a random file in here so we can just play with it. Let's just say this ball thing. So I think most of you know how to use this and you can pretty much figure it out. It's pretty intuitive here. Now Chitubox does not support the Orange 30, or at least not yet that I know of. So there is a workaround that involves both of the slicers, and this is how you're going to do it. So in order for us to save this slice, so later we can convert it to a longer 3D file, what we need to do is we need to go in here and click on default. And as you can see, all my parameters are right here. And the reason they are is because if you click this little button, import file, you can go back to your thumb drive and go into software, and here the Chit2Box configurations, you can see they have the Orange 30 configurator. If you click on that and open it, it's going to set all the parameters for the Orange 30. And as you can see, I renamed it here Orange 30, which you can do that by clicking. You know, you can add a new profile or rename it, edit the name, whatever. But in any case, that's how you do that. So once you do that and you choose this, we're going to go ahead and slice it. And then once it's sliced, it's good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to save. And the way you want to save this is as a zip file. And this is the only way it's going to work. So you can name it obviously whatever you want. It's going to just be called ball. So we're going to go ahead and save it. And it's writing the file. All right, so it's successful. Go ahead and minimize this. And so here we can see that our ball.zip file has been made. So now we're going to open the Longer 3D app. It's actually, quite simple. There's not really much that you have to do. So all you're going to do is click on this import file, and here it's going to ask you the format of a file. So here you got two choices. So you got Chit2Box zip files. And so it's as simple as that. And then we're going to import the file that we made, which is right here, the little zip file. And now it's going to use that file to make the file that we need for our printer. And so here again, you can see you can adjust your parameters here before you make the files. So if you're ready to make the file, all you do is click Save Job, slice it and export it. And now we have the file that the Orange 30 will understand, which is an LGS file. So it says LGS 30. So now we just need to go to Longer 3D here and add that file to the list. And now we'll be able to print this, even though we sliced it in Chit2Box. So the conversion from the Longer software is very simple. So hopefully this will be helpful for anyone that wants to use Chit2Box. This is how you do it on the Longer Orange products. All right, guys, so as you can see, I printed quite a few things, and they all turned out really good. So let's take a closer look at these models with a macro lens. So for the first thing, let's take a look at this bracket here. So this was included with the printer, and it turned out really well. And you can tell I didn't really clean it out too well because some of those honeycombs there are clogged with resin. Other than that, you guys can see the quality on this thing is really good. So it's definitely quite impressive what resin printers can do these days. So the dinosaur turned out alright overall. Though you can tell the quality and the textures here are pretty precise. And if we look at his head, it looks pretty good overall. But because this thing had a ton of supports, on the bottom we can see all those little bumps there. And that's from the supports. So the next print here, we have a sphere or ball. And I did break off the bottom accidentally, being a little eager to take it off and just cracked it right off. Resolution quality is very good. And by the way, guys, all these models are printed in 0.05 layer height. So that's medium layer height. So you could go even finer if you wanted to, but your print time will be quite a bit longer too. So the 0.05 layer height seems to be like a great compromise between speed and quality. So here we have a face, and you guys can tell the quality on the face is really good, especially around his ear here. You can really tell the details. So yeah, overall pretty amazing detail from this printer, as you can see. Very nice. So the next print here really blew my mind because this thing is tiny and the details are very fine on it. You can see his hand there and the gun he's holding. So this is, I think, Star Wars trooper of some sort. This thing is truly miniature, guys. And we can even see his cape here turned out really well. It's kind of hard to show something this tiny, but the amount of detail on this print is very shocking. And you can see here at the end of his gun here, whatever this thing is, there's this really small thing that pokes up here, and it's quite impressive how all that just printed and turned out just fine. So resin printers are definitely killing it in the miniature printing, and this print here proves that the Orange 30 is definitely capable of doing quite extreme prints like this. So here I have a ring that I printed, and I actually printed it too small. It doesn't even fit my pinky, so it is ultra tiny. As you can see, the detail is all there still, and even that engravement there on the inside looks really nice. So I did print another ring in clear resin, and you guys can see that it looks pretty nice. There's that engravement there in the back, but this one actually fits my regular finger. It actually looks pretty nice. Now this clear resin is made by Longer. It seems to print very well, except for whenever it dries it has this little yellow tint to it, so it doesn't really look clear. But it's still quite a unique look, and I would say it's more like a frosty look. So I printed some more clear things, and they're actually chess pieces. And these are completely solid with the clear resin, and you can see that because there's more thickness to it, they're even more yellowy. But overall, a very impressive print, even in this clear resin. And the cool thing about clear resin is that you could modify these things to, you know, like maybe drill a hole here, or even print it with something where you can stick a light in there and it'll glow. And that's what makes the clear resin, you know, pretty awesome for that reason. So this is one of the chess pieces. Then there's another one, and also on this one you can kind of see maybe that it's a little bit more clear on the top than on the sides. So maybe settings have something to do with how clear it is, or maybe how long the exposure time is and all that stuff. So I'm not sure exactly. This is my first time printing with clear, and this is the results I'm getting. But as far as print quality is concerned, that, you know, is there. And then we got this last piece here that kind of looks like crystals, also a chess piece. And it turned out great, and definitely quite a cool and unique look. And the last thing I got here is the Eiffel Tower, and it's going to be really hard to try to fit it all in here because this macro lens won't really let me, but it also turned out very well in this clear resin, but you can kind of see the yellowing somewhat. But overall, the detail on this printer is amazing, and this Eiffel Tower really puts a demanding kind of, you know, building structure on anything because of all the braces there. Resin printers have no issues with this kind of stuff. And you guys can see the top here looks amazing also. So an excellent print. And actually I'm just noticing if I put my hand behind these clear resin prints, it looks a lot better. I guess the sun or whatever is happening in the background there is causing them to be even more yellow than they are. So they're not actually really that yellow there. This is more the real look here. So they just have a little tint of yellowing. And I think this Eiffel Tower would look great if there was like a little light underneath it. This thing would look really nice. So overall, I think the models turned out great. And so as far as the longer Orange 30 here goes, overall it's a great rounded out machine. The UI is very easy to use. The removable bath is easy to take off. And the whole machine is metal, so it's very solid. And you can hear it running right now, and the fan is not very loud. And the prints it's able to produce are definitely up to standards of what you would expect out of a 2K resolution printer. Now I do have one thing to say about what can be improved, and that has to do with the software and the UI. So when you pause a print, instead of raising it up and actually letting you see, you know, what the progress is and if it's stuck and everything's good to go, because you wouldn't be able to see it most of the prints till they're almost done. So sometimes you'd want to, you know, make sure everything's okay. So I think it'd be great if you pause it, instead of just sitting down there, it would raise up to let you see what you've printed, and then when you resume it'll go back down. So not a huge deal, but you know, could be very useful if you're having issues or you're tuning and you're trying to, you know, get just the right exposure and whatnot else. The other thing is also software, not a huge deal either, but once you start the print, you can't adjust anything. So maybe I'd like to see a firmware upgrade where you can adjust your timing on the exposure levels and whatever other things might be important. But as far as mechanically the printer goes, everything seems to work great. And I definitely like the taper that they have on their build plate to run the resin off the top. So if you're familiar with resin printers, this would be a very familiar printer to use and quite simple. If you're just beginning, also, you know, quite a simple process. Just make sure you wear your gloves and you're in a very ventilated area where you're not breathing in all these fumes. So overall, I think Longer 3D did a great job with this Orange 30. And it's quite amazing that we're starting to see this type of quality in printers like this that everyone can afford. So if you guys enjoyed this video, then hit that like button. If you want to pick up the Orange 30 here for yourself, I'm going to have a few links in the description, so check that out. And if you enjoy videos like this, I do a lot of 3D printing stuff and other interesting things on this channel. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button to see more. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.